Hello, my name is Natalie Bungay and I'm from the British Pest Control Association. Today we're going to be talking about rats. Rats are one of those pests that is very common, and whenever you think of pest control, rats is probably one of the first species that comes to mind. So today we're going to have a detailed look at rats and what you can do if you were to experience a problem with them. A rat is a rodent, and the most common one in the UK is the brown rat. The scientific name, just for a bit of fun, is Rattus norvegicus. These rats can be found in urban environments, so cities and towns, but also in rural areas where there's farmland. This species of rat is also known as a commensal rodent, and what that means is that that rat thrives from man's table. The things that we do creates a great environment for them, and it gives them a good food source as well from the waste that we dispose of. With brown rats, sometimes they're given different names such as sewer rats or ground rats, but actually they're all the same species. They've just decided to live in a different environment from each other. Some of them prefer it in the sewers and underground, some of them prefer it above ground and living in banks and farmland. Generally speaking, rats are active and will be active all year round. However, we may notice them a little more in the colder months of the year, so autumn going into winter. And this is because they're moving from possibly the external environments and coming into our buildings where it's nicely heated and comfortable for them. It's a really good idea to understand a bit about the life cycle of a rat, and that's so that you can understand how quickly an infestation can grow. So if we look at that and you've got two rats and the female becomes pregnant, she will be pregnant for about 21 to 25 days. Once she gives birth, there's a weaning period of, again, about 21 to 25 days. And once that's established, we're looking at about 6 weeks that those young are going to become sexually mature themselves. So if you have the average litter size of 10 and you've got those 10 young now sexually mature to have a litter of their own, we've got quite a large infestation that could potentially explode. There are many reasons why we need to control rats. Let's have a look at the most important one, and that's public health. So rats can bring with them a variety of bacteria and diseases, most notably Salmonella and E. coli, which is spread around the environment by their physical presence. There's also something called Weil's disease, which is a zoonosis, and that's something that can be picked up and spread around moist and wet environments. Rats can also cause quite a lot of damage to buildings and the structure for two main reasons. The first one being that they're exploring their environment and they want to try and gain access to new places. But also they do it to keep their teeth short. These teeth are called incisors and they will grow constantly. So if they weren't to gnaw regularly, then they would grow out of control. There are also quite a few legal requirements to rid an area or a building of rats and mice. So let's look at the first one. We've got something called the Prevention of Damage by Pests Act 1949. And what this bit of legislation does is it gives local authorities, or it tells local authorities, that they have to keep their districts free of rats and mice as far as is reasonably practicable. So if an infestation of rats was to be in a private property and that was reported and it was causing problems, the local authority would enforce notices on that property to rid it of a rat infestation. And also, if a local authority was to unfortunately have an infestation of rats on its own land, then they would take the measures to deal with that infestation themselves. If you're a business, and particularly a food business, there are quite a few pieces of legislation that says you need to keep your premises free of rats, but most notably the Food Hygiene Regulations and the Food Safety Act. If a rat has entered a building, then it's likely they've done this because they found something they want. It might be food or it might be harbourage, so it's likely the problem won't go away on its own. Brown rats are a perfectly natural part of the environment within the UK. It's only really when they come into close proximity with humans and start to cause us potential problems that we really need to address them. With rats, the best way to approach them is prevention rather than cure. There are three main things that rats need to be successful within an environment, and one of those is harbourage or safe harbourage. So it's a really good idea to help prevent rats to go around your garden and make sure that there's no piles of wood, for example, or that there's no easy access to your compost heap, because they can get behind these things and dig into them and create a nice harbourage and a home for them to rear some young. Also, another way to prevent rats is to proof your buildings. We don't want them to get into these environments where we're living, so have a look around the building, see if you can find any holes, and the size that we're looking at is about 2 centimetres, and that's about the size of a £1 coin. So if you do come across these, make sure you get them sealed up. Rats also need water to survive, so again we can have a look around the environment. If it's external, you might have things like water butts or even standing water in a puddle or a rooftop where you've got a bit of a dip, so make sure we check these areas and get rid of any of this standing water that we can. Where we can't, for example, you might have a pond, try and get it proofed over or covered up so that rats can't actually get access to it to have a drink. And lastly, possibly most importantly, rats need food to survive. So again, we can look in the environment, see if there are any food sources for them. Rats are omnivorous, so this means that they'll pretty much feed on anything. So things like your waste bin outside, make sure that it's sealed and secure and that you're not leaving any rubbish bags with food waste within it on the outside of the bin, because rats will take advantage of this. If you're a business and you're looking to prevent rats, then there are a few ways that you can go about it, but most businesses employ a professional pest management company to put a few monitoring devices around the area. These devices can be checked at regular intervals just to see if there is any activity. Once a rat infestation has established itself within an environment, they can be really hard to deal with, and that's because of a few things, but most notably they're frightened of humans and they're scared of us, so trying to actually track where they're living can be really difficult. Also, they are afraid of new objects. If we start putting things in their environment, maybe traps you might be trying, it's very unlikely that they're going to visit those traps because they're afraid of those new objects. To deal with a rat infestation within any environment, it's really important that you have a good knowledge of their biology and behaviour, because what this will do, it will allow you to know where to look for them and what tools or treatment processes you need to put in place. Once a rat infestation is established, it's really important that we follow a clear process. The start of that process should be looking at the environment, so making sure that things like water and food and harbourage are as unavailable as possible to these rodents, because that will make it undesirable and they won't want to live there. The next step would be to consider non-toxic control methods, and these are normally in the way of traps. You can get live capture traps as well as kill traps. Moving on from there, once we've explored all these opportunities, we can then look at chemical control, so something called a rodenticide, which is a poison that we use for rodents. Rodenticides are available on the amateur market, but a lot of them are actually professional use only, and this means that you have to be trained to use them. The reason you need to be trained to use them is because they can be quite harmful to the environment, but also wildlife. So it's really important that whether it's an amateur use product or a professional use product, that it's used in a considerate way to make sure there are no non-target species that are harmed. If you were to purchase any rodenticides yourself, it's really important that you read all of the instructions and follow the directions just to keep yourself and the environment safe. If you have a rat infestation, it's really unlikely that you'll be able to deal with it successfully and fully, so we always recommend that you employ a professional pest management company. The first thing they'll do is talk to you and just find out a bit about what you've seen and what you've experienced. From this information, they can then go around the property and just see if they can see any evidence themselves of where they might be moving or living. And then the pest control technician will be looking at what processes or what treatment strategies they can put in place that's best for you and your environment. And it could range from non-toxic control, proofing and hygiene, as well as maybe chemical control. The pest professional will have all of the equipment and knowledge necessary to keep yourself and them safe, as well as the wildlife, environment, and any pets that you might have. To find a professional pest management company to deal with your rat infestation, then you can use the BPCA Find a Pest Controller tool. All you need to do is enter your postcode and then you'll find a list of professional pest management companies within your area, and you can be certain that all of the pest professionals are trained, trusted and audited by BPCA.
For more information about rats, please visit bpca.org.uk/rats. If you need a pest management company, then find a local member at bpca.org.uk/find. Alternatively, you can call our 24/7 helpline on 01332 294 288.